Have you ever accepted an invitation from a passenger that seemed too good to be true? Have you ever ignored warning signs because attraction clouded your judgment? What would you do if you realized the woman inviting you upstairs wasn't interested in romance but in something far more valuable that you carry inside your body? And when does a moment of temptation become the last decision you'll ever make? My name is Marcus Webb, and I drove for Uber in Dallas, Texas for 2 years before the night that changed everything. 2 years of downtown pickups, airport runs, late-night bar crowds, and the endless hustle of making rent in a city that gets more expensive every month. I thought I understood people, thought I could read passengers and situations, thought I knew when to be cautious and when to relax. But I didn't understand anything until the night I picked up Dr. Elena Voss from a medical conference at the Hilton Anatole and accepted her invitation to come upstairs for a drink. I didn't understand that some predators don't look like monsters, they look like beautiful, intelligent women. And I didn't understand that the black market for human organs is worth billions of dollars, operated by people who've perfected the art of making victims walk willingly into their traps. It was a Friday night in late October, around 11 p.m. I'd been driving since 4 in the afternoon, catching the evening rush and then the dinner crowd heading to restaurants in Uptown and Deep Ellum. The money had been good, Friday nights usually were, but I was getting tired and considering calling it quits when I got a ping for a pickup at the Hilton Anatole near Market Center. The ride request showed Elena V, 495 stars, and a destination to an apartment building in the design district, about a 10-minute drive. I accepted and headed over. The Anatole is a massive hotel and convention center, and according to the marquee out front, they were hosting the Southwest Regional Medical Conference. Doctors, surgeons, medical researchers. The parking area was full of luxury cars, and well-dressed people were streaming in and out of the main entrance. I pulled up to the pickup zone and sent the standard text. A minute later, a woman emerged from the hotel entrance, and I felt my breath catch slightly. She was stunning. Late 30s, dark hair pulled back in a sophisticated style, wearing a form-fitting black dress and heels. She carried a small designer purse and moved with the kind of confidence that comes from success and knowing you're attractive. When she opened the back door and slid in, she brought with her a subtle scent of expensive perfume. "Marcus?" she asked, checking my name on her phone. "That's me." "Elena?" "Yes. Thank you for coming. I've been at that conference since 8 this morning and I'm exhausted." Her voice had a slight accent I couldn't quite place. Eastern European, maybe. Romanian or Russian. She settled into the back seat with a sigh. "Is the design district far?" "About 10 minutes, depending on traffic. You live there?" "I do. Just moved to Dallas 6 months ago for work. Still getting used to the city." She met my eyes in the rearview mirror and smiled. "What about you? Are you from Dallas originally?" "Born and raised. 32 years watching this city grow and change." "Then you must know all the good places." "I've been so busy with work I haven't had time to explore properly." "Maybe you could recommend some restaurants? Bars?" We fell into easy conversation as I drove. Elena was charming and engaged, asking questions about Dallas, sharing stories about the medical conference she'd just attended. She was a transplant surgeon, she said, specializing in kidney and liver transplants. The work was demanding but rewarding, saving lives every week. I asked her questions about it, genuinely interested, and she answered with enthusiasm. "The technology has advanced so much," she explained. "We can preserve organs longer now, match donors and recipients more precisely. The waiting lists are still too long, of course. Too many people need organs and not enough donors. It's heartbreaking, really." "I'm not an organ donor," I admitted. "Never got around to checking that box on my license." "You should consider it. When you die, your organs could save multiple lives. Your kidneys, liver, heart, lungs, corneas, all of it could give others a chance they wouldn't have otherwise." She paused. "Of course, organ donation has strict requirements. The organs need to be healthy, the donor's medical history screened carefully. Not everyone qualifies." Something about the way she said it felt slightly off, but I dismissed the feeling. We were approaching her building now, a modern high-rise apartment complex in the design district, the kind of place where one bedrooms started at $2,000 a month. I pulled into the parking circle near the entrance. Elena gathered her purse and phone, then hesitated. Marcus, I know this is forward, but would you like to come up for a drink? I have an excellent bottle of wine that I've been saving, and after a long day of listening to boring medical presentations, I could use some conversation with someone who isn't a doctor. My mind raced. This was clearly a proposition of some kind, whether just for company or something more, I wasn't sure. But either way, it was dangerous territory. Uber's policy strictly prohibited drivers from socializing with passengers outside of rides. If anyone reported it, I could lose my account. On the other hand, Elena was attractive, interesting, and seemed genuinely interested in me. When was the last time that had happened? I don't know, I said. I should probably keep working. Friday night's usually good money. I'll make it worth your while. I'll give you a $200 tip through the app. That's more than you'd make driving for the next few hours, isn't it? She leaned forward slightly and I could smell her perfume again. Plus, you seem like good company, and I really don't want to drink alone tonight. $200. That would put me over my goal for the week, and she was beautiful, sophisticated, clearly interested. What was the harm in one drink? I could stay for half an hour, have some wine, chat, then leave. Maybe get her number for a proper date later. Okay, I said, making what I thought was a calculated risk. One drink, but then I need to get back to work. Perfect. She smiled warmly. Park over there in visitor parking. I'm in apartment 2847, 28th floor. I parked my car and we walked to the building entrance together. The lobby was sleek and modern, with a 24-hour concierge desk and security cameras visible in every corner. We took the elevator up, the mirrored walls reflecting us standing side by side. Elena kept up the conversation, asking about my life, my goals, what I did besides driving. I told her about my plans to save up and maybe start a business someday, how driving was just temporary until I figured out my next move. 32 is young, she said. You have time to figure things out, though time moves faster than we think. Before you know it, you're 40 and wondering where the years went. The elevator dinged at the 28th floor. This is us. Her apartment was at the end of the hallway, 2847 like she'd said. She unlocked the door and we entered, and I immediately noticed how sparsely furnished the place was. The living room had a couch, a coffee table, and a single chair, but no TV, no art on the walls, no personal touches. The kitchen was visible from the entrance and it looked barely used. No dishes in the sink, no appliances on the counter, nothing to suggest someone actually lived here. I know it's sparse, Elena said, noticing my look. Like I said, I just moved here. Haven't had time to properly furnish yet. Between the hospital and the research I'm conducting, I'm rarely home. What kind of research? Organ preservation techniques, ways to keep organs viable longer outside the body. It could revolutionize transplant medicine. She moved to the kitchen and opened a cabinet. Let me get that wine. Make yourself comfortable on the couch. I sat down, feeling slightly uneasy now that we were alone in her apartment. The building was nice, the apartment was in a good area, but something felt off. The lack of personalization, the clinical emptiness of the space. It didn't feel like someone's home. It felt staged. Elena returned with 2 wine glasses and a bottle of red wine. She poured generously, handed me a glass, then sat on the opposite end of the couch. To new friendships, she said, raising her glass. We clinked glasses and I took a sip. The wine was excellent, rich and smooth, probably expensive. We talked for a few more minutes, but I noticed Elena wasn't really drinking. She brought the glass to her lips occasionally but never actually swallowed. And her questions were getting more specific, more probing. About my health, whether I exercised, whether I had any medical conditions, whether I drank or smoked regularly. You're very healthy, she observed. Good muscle tone, clear eyes, no obvious health issues. Do you see a doctor regularly? Not really, can't afford good insurance driving for Uber, but I feel fine. That's good. A young, healthy body is valuable. She set down her wine glass. Marcus, I need to be honest with you about something. My stomach tightened. What? I didn't invite you up here just for conversation. I have a business proposition. Something that could make you a lot of money very quickly. What kind of proposition? She stood up and walked to a closet near the kitchen. When she opened it, I saw it wasn't a closet at all. It was full of medical equipment. Portable machines, coolers with biohazard labels, instruments I didn't recognize. She pulled out a small case and brought it back to the couch. The legal organ transplant system has a waiting list of over 100,000 people in the United States alone, she said, opening the case. Inside were syringes, vials, surgical tools. Many of them will die before they receive organs. But there's another system, an underground market where people with money can get organs immediately, no waiting. The problem is supply. We need healthy donors. My blood ran cold. Donors? You mean like kidney donation? I'm not interested in selling. Not donation, harvesting. You have 2 kidneys, but you only need one to live. Your liver regenerates. We can take a portion and it'll grow back. You have organs inside you worth hundreds of thousands of dollars on the black market, and I can extract them, sell them, and give you a significant cut of the profit. I stood up quickly, the wine glass falling from my hand and shattering on the floor. You're insane, I'm leaving. Elena stood too, and something in her expression changed. The warmth, the charm, the attraction, it all drained away, leaving something cold and calculating. Sit down, Marcus. The wine you drank was laced with a sedative. In about 30 seconds, you're going to start feeling dizzy. Your motor control will fail, and you'll lose consciousness. When you wake up, you'll be in my surgical suite in the basement, and we'll begin the extraction process. I stumbled toward the door, but my legs were already weakening. She was right. Dizziness was washing over me, my vision blurring. I grabbed for the door handle, but my hands wouldn't work properly. I fell to my knees. Don't fight it, Elena said calmly, standing over me. The sedative works faster if you struggle. I've done this 14 times now. You're not the first Uber driver to accept my invitation. Young, healthy men who work independently, whose schedules are erratic, who won't be missed immediately. Perfect donors. I tried to speak, but my tongue was thick. I tried to crawl toward the door, but my body wouldn't respond. The last thing I saw before darkness took me was Elena pulling out her phone and making a call, saying something about, "The donor is ready, and prepare the surgical suite." I woke up in darkness, my head pounding, my mouth dry. I was lying on something hard and cold, metal or stone. When I tried to move, I realized my wrists and ankles were restrained, secured with what felt like leather straps. I pulled against them frantically, but they held firm. "Help!" I shouted, my voice echoing in the darkness. "Someone help me!" Lights flickered on, blinding me momentarily. As my eyes adjusted, I saw I was in a basement space that had been converted into a makeshift operating room. Surgical lights hung from the ceiling. A tray of instruments sat near my head. Scalpels, clamps, retractors. Monitoring equipment beeped softly beside me. And on the wall, a large refrigerated unit with compartments labeled with organs. Kidney, liver, cornea, heart. Elena entered from a doorway I couldn't fully see, now wearing surgical scrubs, her hair covered with a cap. Behind her came 2 other people, a man and a woman, also in scrubs. They moved with practiced efficiency, not speaking, just preparing the space around me. "You're awake," Elena said, approaching the table I was strapped to. "That's unfortunate. The sedative should have kept you under longer, but it doesn't matter. Once we begin anesthesia, you won't feel anything." "You can't do this," I said, my voice shaking. "People know where I am. Uber tracks every ride, they'll find me." "Your ride ended when you parked your car. According to the app, you dropped me off and left. And your car is now in long-term parking at DFW Airport, where we moved it an hour ago. When people eventually report you missing, which won't be for days, the trail will lead to the airport, suggesting you left Dallas voluntarily. By the time anyone thinks to investigate further, you'll be in several different countries, saving the lives of people wealthy enough to pay for black market organs. You're a monster. I'm a surgeon and a businesswoman. There's a massive market for healthy organs, Marcus. A kidney sells for $200,000, a portion of liver for $150,000, corneas, $30,000 each. Your body is worth nearly $500,000 in parts. More actually, because you're young and healthy. AB positive blood type. Very desirable. No history of smoking or heavy drinking. You're a premium donor. The two assistants were preparing surgical equipment now, connecting monitors, setting up IV lines. I pulled against the restraints with all my strength, but they were designed for this, for holding down people who realized too late what was happening to them. "How many people have you done this to?" I asked, trying to keep her talking, trying to find any way to delay what was about to happen. 14 before you. All Uber drivers, all young men who accepted my invitation. It's remarkably easy, actually. Men see an attractive woman, they let their guard down, they think with something other than their brain, and they walk right into my surgical suite. Where are they now, those 14 men? Dead, obviously. You can't remove kidneys and liver lobes and let someone live. Well, technically, you could take one kidney and let them survive, but that would leave a witness. Cleaner to harvest everything and dispose of the body. We have a crematorium partnership. Very efficient. I felt tears running down my face. This was real. This was actually happening. I was going to die on this table, be cut apart while unconscious, my organs sold to the highest bidders, my body turned to ash, and no one would ever know what happened to me. "Please," I whispered. "Please don't do this. I have a family. I have a daughter. You don't have a daughter. I researched you thoroughly before selecting you as a target. Single, no children, parents deceased, few close friends. You're perfect precisely because you won't be missed urgently. No one will raise alarms for at least a week, probably longer." She was right. I'd been alone for 2 years since my last relationship ended, kept mostly to myself, worked constantly, hadn't built close connections. I'd been invisible in life, and I'd be invisible in death. One of the assistants approached with an IV line. "This is the anesthesia," Elena explained. "Propofol. You'll be unconscious in seconds. When you wake up, well, you won't wake up. We'll keep you under until the extraction is complete, and then we'll let you go. Painlessly. Almost merciful, really." "Wait," I said desperately. "I can pay you. I'll give you money, whatever you want, just let me go. Your organs are worth more than any cash you could access, and letting you go would be a liability I can't afford. I'm sorry, Marcus. This isn't personal. It's just business." The assistant moved the IV toward my arm. I thrashed against the restraints, screaming, begging, promising anything. But the needle found my vein. The cold liquid began flowing, and I felt consciousness slipping away again. In that final moment before darkness, I thought about all the choices that had led to this. Accepting the ride request, being attracted to Elena, agreeing to come upstairs, drinking the wine. Every decision had been a step toward this table, this moment, this end. And I'd made every choice willingly, ignoring the small warnings my instincts had tried to send. But then something happened that Elena and her assistants didn't expect. The door to the surgical suite burst open, and men in tactical gear flooded in. FBI, their jackets said, weapons drawn. "Federal agents, nobody move. Hands where we can see them." Elena spun around, shock on her face. The assistants raised their hands immediately. The agent who'd entered first approached the table I was strapped to and began removing the IV. "We got you. You're safe. Just stay calm." Later, after they'd freed me and taken Elena and her team into custody, I learned the truth. I hadn't been her 15th victim. I'd been her 14th. But the 13th, a driver named Kevin Mitchell, hadn't died. Elena's assistant had made a mistake with the anesthesia dosing, and Kevin had woken up during the extraction. He'd managed to escape, severely injured but alive, and had gone to the FBI. For 3 weeks, the FBI had been building a case, tracking Elena's operation, identifying her network. When I'd accepted her ride request, they'd been monitoring her phone. When I'd agreed to come upstairs, they'd followed. They'd let it get as far as they safely could to catch Elena in the act, to get evidence of intent to commit murder and organ trafficking. I was the bait they'd used to close their trap, and I'd played my part perfectly, walking into danger exactly as Elena had designed, exactly as 13 other men had done before me. Elena Voss, not her real name, was part of an international organ trafficking ring operating in 15 countries. She was a trained surgeon, But she'd lost her medical license in Romania after being caught selling organs on the black market. She'd fled to the United States, set up operations in Dallas, and had been harvesting organs from victims for nearly 2 years. The other 13 men, drivers who disappeared without explanation, whose families had filed missing persons reports that went nowhere, they found evidence of all of them. Partial remains, DNA evidence, financial records showing hundreds of thousands of dollars in offshore accounts. Elena had killed 13 men and sold their organs for millions of dollars. She's in federal prison now, facing multiple life sentences. Her assistants, her buyers, her network all being prosecuted. But knowing she's behind bars doesn't erase what almost happened to me. Doesn't erase the feeling of waking up strapped to that table, seeing those instruments, understanding that my body was about to be carved up and sold in pieces. I don't drive for Uber anymore. Can't bring myself to pick up strangers, to trust passengers, to accept ride requests. Every time I think about it, I see Elena's face, hear her calm explanation of how she'd killed 13 men before me, how easy it had been, how perfectly she'd designed her trap. And I think about the choices I made, how attraction and the promise of easy money overrode every instinct telling me something was wrong, how I ignored the sparse apartment, the probing questions, the way she didn't drink the wine, how I walked into danger with my eyes half open, seeing the warning signs but choosing not to acknowledge them. The FBI agent who debriefed me said something I can't forget. Predators don't look like predators. They look like opportunities. They look like luck. They look like beautiful women offering exactly what you want. That's how they've survived. That's how they keep finding victims. Because we want to believe in good luck, in attraction, in opportunities that seem too good to be true. That's what Elena Voss was. An opportunity that seemed too good to be true. And she almost was the last opportunity I'd ever have, the last choice I'd ever make, the last time I'd ignore my instincts in favor of what I wanted to believe. I share this story now as a warning. To other drivers, to other men, to anyone who's ever been tempted by an offer that seems too perfect. Some invitations shouldn't be accepted. Some passengers have plans that have nothing to do with romance or friendship. And some people see you not as a person, but as a collection of valuable parts worth more harvested than whole. If this story made you think twice about accepting invitations from strangers, about trusting people just because they're attractive, about ignoring warning signs because you want to believe in good luck, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment sharing your own close calls, your moments when instinct saved you, your experiences with people who turned out to be dangerous. Maybe you've ignored red flags because someone was charming. Maybe you've walked into situations that felt wrong but looked right. Maybe you've survived something you barely understood at the time. You're not alone. We're all navigating a world where predators have learned to look like opportunities, where danger disguises itself as luck, where the most dangerous people are often the ones who seem the most attractive and trustworthy. Thanks for listening to my story. Thanks for understanding that some invitations should be declined, some passengers should be avoided, and some opportunities are actually traps designed by people who see human beings as nothing more than products to be harvested and sold. Stay safe out there. Trust your instincts. And remember that if something seems too good to be true, especially when it comes from a stranger who has every reason to seem trustworthy, it probably is.